Heavy rain expected in the Philippines this week on tonight's Tropical Weather Bulletin. And now the latest around the wide world of tropics. Tropical Weather Bulletin for May the 1st. Into a new month, and no new storms just yet, but there could be one or two on the horizon. Code blue in effect right now, mainly for the system headed towards the Philippines, which we'll touch on more in just a moment. But around the world it is generally fairly quiet. In the Atlantic, can you believe it? The next hurricane season is now on the horizon distinctly now, with 31 days until hurricane season begins. A big frontal system moving off the US East Coast, but apart from that, a quiet picture across the Atlantic, with another extratropical cyclone moving off towards the North Atlantic region. 30% issued by our analyst team for an area of interest in the Western Pacific that is currently located near Palau and is expected to move towards the west-northwest towards the southern Philippine Islands. Quite uncertain how exactly it will manifest just yet, but models are hinting that there could be a tropical cyclone possibility, and failing that, certainly a chance for large amounts of rainfall over the southern and eastern Philippines. Elsewhere, a 10% designated for an area of interest is starting to make itself apparent in the, not far from the equator actually, in the South Indian Ocean. It's probably going to become more apparent in the next few days. I think they've gone maybe a little bit early on this, but I do think this will eventually pop up on our charts properly. 10% right now though for the next 5 days. Satellite imagery looks like this. Take a look back to the last 24 hours and you can see that system already in the Indian Ocean producing quite a few red zones there, so certainly showing itself as a rainmaker, if nothing else right now. And a few other spots across Indonesia and a few other locations getting sustained rainfall in the last 24 hours. There's another look at it, and it looks pretty decent here on this satellite view near the edge of this image, because we don't have Meteosat at the moment, not a current view of it at least, but certainly looking quite interesting, and maybe the models have fallen short on that system, and who knows, it might surprise us. Here is the Western Pacific system tagged Invest 93W. You can see most of the bulk of the cloud there just south of Palau. That's that island there. Yap just on the top right hand side there as well, getting one or two scattered showers, but the main bulk of this system is to the south of Palau with some pretty decent cloud tops, high amount of convection, but most of it isn't affecting any land areas right now. No real signs of a circulation yet, which is obviously what we need and what we're looking for, but I imagine that might come later on down the line. Here's the system we were looking at a couple of days ago near New Zealand now, and you can see it there. Interesting looking storm, probably producing a few thunderstorms over the North Island of New Zealand, and could deliver large amounts of rainfall for some of those higher elevations, especially on the South Island. Sea surface temperatures today, looking at the Eastern Pacific, looking okay, getting warmer there as well. Hawaii, by the way, starting to get a few 26 degree spots there now. Loop current looking good and really getting some warmer temperatures into there. The Florida Bay area and also towards the Gulf Stream, really starting to get those higher temperatures, 27, maybe pushing 28 off the Florida Keys. And towards the Indian Ocean right now, very warm sea surface temperatures remain in the Bay of Bengal. Very warm, 32 degrees possibly in a few locations there. Southwest Indian Ocean, as you'd expect, still simmering down now, as we are very late into what you would consider its season down there. Temperatures though still 27 degrees roughly near Mauritius and La Reunion. In the Australian region, you can take a look at those temperatures there as well. They're also on the decline, not many 30 degrees anymore, and that happened pretty quickly, it has to be said. And down towards the South Pacific, those temperatures really starting to recede as well, but still a few areas of serious lower tropics there. But around Fiji, temperatures 29 to 30 degrees. And in the Western Pacific, those warm waters are continuing to expand and really growing in temperature in the Philippine Sea and around the Philippines, up to 30 degrees and more in a few areas there, particularly off the west coast. How does that look in terms of anomaly? Well, not that far above average in the Western Pacific, but a few spots there quite a bit, near the equator particularly. Indian Ocean above average, South Pacific still above average as well. Atlantic, a big swathe there in the Eastern Atlantic, well above average right now, and still the Eastern Pacific cannot be ignored with that enormous warm pool of South America, which could be producing our next El Nino event. South Pacific oceanic heat content is still very much there, extending quite a way out to the east. Coral Sea starting to disappear a little bit now, and into the Western Pacific you can still see here expanding once again here as well. And in the Eastern Pacific, one or two spots there that are looking really desirable for oceanic heat content. It is well ahead of where we were at last season, even at its peak. So interesting goings on there. GFS computer model out to 5 days. First of all, you can see one little disturbance moving towards land, and then a second one which happens a little bit later on. There it is, moving through the Philippine Islands. Watch again very quickly, that first one occurs, which I think could be the current invest or maybe a center relocation. Then this second system, there it is, drawing it out now, a potential trajectory there through the just south of Bohol and towards just around the northern coast of Mindanao and continuing southwestwards. Interesting. Might be a tropical cyclone. If it does, it'll be short-lived. What happens in the Indian Ocean? Where's that system we're looking out for? Is it within 5 days? Well, it is on the GFS model, and it does form very quickly towards the end of that 5-day period. It's on May the 5th, May the 6th there. Still curious that no other models are picking up on this system yet, which is why I personally would be reluctant to pull the trigger to give it any chances just yet. But the GFS has been pretty steadfast with its projections so far. Looking back at the Philippines, expected rainfall from whatever occurs from Invest 93W is going to be the highlight and certainly the most important factor of this potential system. There could be very large amounts of rainfall along the eastern coast of Mindanao, up towards southern Leyte, and possibly along eastern Samar. Rainfall, not temperatures, getting up to possibly 15 inches in one or two spots there. That's getting up to close to 400 millimeters, and over Leyte as well, possibly getting to 300, and over other parts of the Visayas further west and on Mindanao too, we could be looking at over 100 millimeters of rainfall. There you can see all of those rain amounts in inches, albeit just a reminder there that 4 inches is relatively similar to 100 millimeters, so you can work from there. But certainly large amounts of rain possible in a few spots. Check out the longer range. This is day 5 through 10. There's that system in the South Indian Ocean, a last hurrah possibly for that basin this season, and then a lot of energy really circling around and becoming a broad and large northern Indian Ocean storm as well, and it gets rather strong as well towards the end of that 10-day period, May the 11th. But both systems there quite clear and becoming category 1 hurricane equivalent storms during their lives if the GFS is to be fully believed. Elsewhere, even more odd is what we're going to see here in the region around the Indonesian islands, the Banda Sea I think it is, a system that eventually starts to form there as well. GFS has been consistent with this, so it is towards the end of the day 10 period, but look how strong it gets. It gets to category 1 hurricane equivalent status, shades of the Flores cyclone back in 1973. Will that happen or not? Big question mark. But look back in the Western Pacific as well, the circulation there trying to get back going again near the end of that 10-day period. Really remarkable goings-ons on the model there. That's all the serious stuff done. You can take a look at the Force 13 merch store where we have all of our usual items, including our still waiting for Hone t-shirt. Models haven't projected that one just yet. And there it is. In the Scilly range then, day 10 to 16, look at this, a very large, powerful storm ramming up the Ganges River Delta region there into Myanmar particularly, but possibly Bangladesh as well. But that is a very long way out. Certainly look on at it with concern if you're in that area, but models can change at the drop of a hat. I wouldn't put any faith into this happening just yet. Southern Hemisphere storm going there as well. Looks like that gets to category 3 as well there on that GFS Scilly range model run, and eventually turns eastward. It does last quite a while considering it's such a late season storm. There's that Indonesian cyclone, look at that, a small system, and then it dissolves quite quickly as it heads towards Sulawesi, and then you can see that in the Western Pacific system there, possibly remnants of 93W that loops back out and then becomes an enormous typhoon, shoveling off towards the north and then northeast, probably a category 4 on that GFS model run. So GFS needs to cool down, it really wants lots of activity, but who are we to say that all of these things can't happen? They're all possible, but are they probable? Not yet. You can chat about it though, as well as anything else in the weather world, on our Discord server, discord.gg/force13 for general and tropical weather chat, and many more things besides, with over 3,000 people from around the world. Well, another slightly odd cyclone happened on this day 10 years ago in 2013. May the 1st saw the peak. In fact, April the 30th was the peak, but Zane was just still near its peak and was slowly heading downwards. A category 1 on this day as it was moving westwards towards the Cape York Peninsula of Australia. Cyclone Zane there on May the 1st, 2013, just 2 days after Force 13's first ever piece of music, which we celebrated on Force 13 Sundays earlier today. Well then, speaking of today, and we are waiting with bated breath for our first storms in the Northern Hemisphere, or the Atlantic rather. Arlene would be the first name, Adrian in the Eastern Pacific, and Hone in the Central Pacific. 16 storms so far in 2023 worldwide. In the Western Pacific, next is Mawar. We have had one so far, Sanvu. In the North Indian Ocean, Mocha is next up, and well, certainly concerns that that one could end up being a big one here, as we are entering the prime time for the Indian Ocean. And in the Southern Hemisphere, if we get anything else, it's Jasper in the Australian region, Fabienne in the Southwest Indian Ocean, and Lola in the South Pacific. We'll be back again with another tropical weather bulletin tomorrow night.